Yo, what is up and welcome to Ninja Geek Games. The UK Games Expo, one of the biggest gaming conventions in the world, has been and gone, and I wanted to share some of the highlights I encountered over this glorious weekend in a Blitz review. I visited the preview show, met with other content creators, played some new games at the stands as well as with friends, and had a chance to talk to designers and publishers about upcoming games as well as buy a few myself. I also even made a few clips for my TikTok channel, and here's one as an example. So we're here, we've arrived at the UK Games Expo. I've just parked up at the NEC and I've already been recognised. Very happy about that. Hey.
I drove you here, Mark.
But he still recognises me. Oh, I'm a funny guy. The convention kicked off with a preview show where I finally met Mark Dainty from Not Bored Gaming, who I've been a fan of for some time, as well as Johnny Williams from the Hexy Beast, and over the weekend I also met with Sarah Shah from Board Games in a Minute. At the preview show I was impressed with Vengeance Roll and Fight from Mighty Boards, which is an action-packed dice-chucking game set in the world not so far from Kill Bill or John Wick. That was initially a Kickstarter game but will go to retail soon. Interestingly, 2 sets of this game can allow up to 8 players to take part. Stuff by Bez was showing off a multitude of quirky, weird, cute, whimsical and comical card-based games that were exceptionally fun to play. I discovered the relic Kingmaker is making a comeback, hitting Kickstarter next year, first produced in 1974. I'm unsure as to what changes will be made, if any, and it'll be interesting to see how this stands up to modern gaming. Pyramology is a campaign-funded abstract game that was very intuitive through clever placement of pyramidal-shaped game pieces. Cursed Empire was showing off the fabulous Heroes of Thargos RPG-based card game that I've already completed a learn to play video for. Here they had the prototype of War Galleys of Thargos linking the original game as well as a dungeon crawler all set in the same universe. The main show was incredibly busy, but I think that was to be expected, and a big shout out to all the volunteers over the weekend. Currently doing well on Kickstarter is Amulet of Thrax from Trolls and Rerolls, an area control game with a Discworld-esque feel about it. Components look great with a cool looking circular board where you represent a cult trying to harvest souls from the nobles and peasants through card play. Tristan Hall from Hall or Nothing Productions showed me a preview copy of their latest historical battle card game, Scum of the Earth, and they were very tight-lipped about Sublime Dark, although they did have a nice teasing banner for it. Joining them was Mark Chapman, the designer of the fantastic survival horror Lifeform, who talked about his latest game coming to Kickstarter called Where Humans Don't Belong. This is a 1 or 2 player space exploration game of gaining resources from planets and avoiding an alien race where you need to make some difficult decisions to survive, with tons of maps and scenarios to explore. This looks incredible, so keep your eye out for this. I'm glad to have backed Senjutsu, as watching a demo of the card-based skirmish game set about ancient Japanese warriors looks exceptionally good, with lots of options and some great miniatures. Speaking of miniatures, playing Oathsworn from Shadowborn was a blast, even though my character was tail-whipped by a giant rat into a wall and left in a crumpled heap. It has a nice cooldown mechanic when actions are completed, and there is a new Kickstarter campaign coming later this year. Steam Forged Games came with the big guns to include Bard Sung, Resident Evil 3 and a truckload of god tier games and expansions. Bard Sung appears a solid dungeon crawler with great minis and character development, but sadly I missed an opportunity to play this. I had a great playthrough of an anime deck builder from Japanime Games and their Kamigami battle range. You represent a powerful god where you need to gain warriors and disciples to attack your opponents. This was fun with some great, although quite close to the mark artwork, so may not be wholly suitable for younger players. Whilst there, I was provided with some review games, starting with Sinister Fish Games. I've reviewed Moon, which hits Kickstarter in July, and this was being demoed, but I won't divulge too much about this until my review is out, but they were kind enough to donate streets and villages. Medusa Games are behind Nine Worlds, which appears in my top 5 underrated games. It's a strategic area control game of Norse mythology, but has a second expansion, Creatures and Monsters, that promotes some cooperation in a predominantly competitive game. Lastly, this is Tactici, a 2-player game of moving statues around a small board to eliminate your opponent based on statue strength, with some nice surprises, and this area was packed with people trying out this game. So, what did I buy? Well, not too much this year. First is Botoku, where you take on the role of some form of forest spirit. The game has card play and worker placement in the form of dice and looks awesome setup. I've had my eye on this for some time, but after seeing this at the preview show, I just had to get it. Gollum was a tough one to find, but I managed to get this from Chaos Cards, who had the best customer service that I experienced that weekend. It's an engine builder based on the legend of the Golem of Prague. Last is an expansion to Merchant's Cove that currently sits on my shelf of shame. But now into the games that I played in the open gaming area. The highlights for me were Street Fighter's miniature game, which was so much fun with the best pre-painted miniatures I have ever seen, and Brass Birmingham, also a first time for me. I loved it, great components, although it took a turn or two to understand the actions and scoring, it's a very engaging game. Me winning had nothing to do with it. Evil Dead 2 hit the table with my own painted miniatures, which was a blast, as was Warpgate, another underrated gem of skirmishes and area control. With an hour or so left before I had to go, I made a mad dash to the library, grabbed 7 Wonders and hit up a 4-player game. So overall, this ended up a great weekend. Lots of people were kind enough to say hello and talk about my channel, which was really welcoming as well. Overall, a fantastic weekend, and I'm already looking forward to next year's. So, thank you for watching. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.